Good evening, everybody. My name's Andy Campbell, and we have got the Astro Deep Space Category to judge now. This is astrophotography images that are out of this world that can include star clusters, supernova remnants, nebulae, galaxies, galaxy clusters, the sun, planets, comets, or the moon. Images may be taken with telescopes or camera lenses using mono or colour cameras, with or without filters. Entries in this category must be taken with your own equipment using your own data, so no subscription services. Images must be taken and processed by the entrant. We've vetted these already for any overuse of AI processing, so you're all good, and we'll give you the information, the technical data as required. With that in mind, once again, we have Dr. Tanya Hill, Ari Rex, Strongman Mike Sidonio, Paul Holan, and Diego Colinello on our panel. And we will have the first image, please. So, beneath Victoria's pristine skies, M78 is a radiant reflection nebula in Orion, revealing its ethereal charm. Taken with an ASCAR 107 PHQ telescope. We've used Antlia Pro filters. There we go. All right, thank you, judges. This image has scored 86. Sorry, I just need to tap my shoulder for a second. 88, 81, 87, 86. Okay, so we're all very even on our scoring. Let's get Mike straight up. Mike, I'll get you to make a comment on this one, please. Can you get me back to whatever page I needed to be on?
Okay, first of all, I'll say I've seen the breadth of quality that's been entered in this competition, and it's phenomenal. These final 28, whatever, 25 images are going to be so tough. This is an excellent image. It's beautifully processed. It's got really nice shiny stars. That's what I look for in images. I want to see shiny stars. I want to see gas that looks like gas. I want to see detail that looks real, that's not overdone, that's blended in the right areas the right way. So it ticks all the boxes. It's moody. It's a really, really good photograph. And the author should be very proud of themselves.
Alrighty then, thanks Mike. Let's move on to the next image, please. Description, please. This elegant image of GUM 65 and the bright blue star Sigma Scorpii was all captured from Canberra, Australia, combining hydrogen alpha with broadband data, truly showing the natural beauty of this lush and vibrant part of our Milky Way. This is taken with a sidereal trading 10-inch f4 carbon fibre Newtonian telescope, a ZWO 2600 MC Pro, and using astronomic filters. Imaged over 3 nights. Straight to the finals, 91. I just need to see who scored what.
Who was copying?
91, 90, 92, 92, and 92. While you're doing that, can I get a comment from Tanya Hill, please?
I think the simplicity of this image is what really draws you in, that you just have the framing of the young blue star and then the beautiful gaseous, like as Mike was saying, it looks like gas. So fantastic job.
Very quick.
I moved this into the range purely for the almost like biblical symbolism that I was reading into this Star of David, or it just had the colour palette and design really spoke to that strongly. Very evocative.
It's a great image. Next image, please. Thank you so much. Alrighty. The dusty wide-field view of the constellation of Chameleon. The small constellation Chameleon lies deep in the southern skies and is home to huge dust clouds and star-forming regions. Nebulosity does not necessarily have to be colourful, and the brown, almost opaque dust clouds lying in the Chameleon constellations come across as beautiful as well as dark and foreboding at the same time. There are some reflection nebulae, Centaurus 110 and 111, and you can also see orange V-shaped nebula below Centaurus 3, 111 called the Chameleon Infrared Nebula. Lots of interesting objects. This image has scored 88. Almost unanimously in this instance. Let's call on Diego for a comment on this one, please. If someone could pass Diego the microphone, there it is.
It's a great image by the entrant. Rarely seen dark nebulas. I really appreciate the processing that this image took. In my opinion, it is really too easy to overprocess dark nebulas, and I think it would have gained a lot more if it looks more like gas than solid in certain parts of the photo.
Thank you, Diego. Could we have the next image, please? Row of you guy, a cosmic bouquet. This is taken with an ASCAR lens, a 200mm f4 lens. An ASI 6200 MC camera using Antlia dual band, 5mm narrowband filter. 5.8 hours of RGB, 5.3 hours of HO. Thank you, team. This one has scored 87. Paul, you're right on 87. Could I ask for a comment from you, please, on this image?
Yeah, beautiful range of colour. What I find most striking about this is this lateral flow that increases a sense of spatial depth from the sort of bottom right into the frame, and it sort of makes it feels like there's a sense of movement and moving away, and that sort of speaks to what celestial bodies do. It isn't so apparent from a still point of view. It gives it movement.
Thank you. And could we have the next image, please? Alrighty. I love this technical term. Herbig-Haro 1 is a large planetary nebula in the constellation of Lynx. It was discovered by Herbig-Haro and Weinberger on the Palomar Deep Sky Survey in 1980. We are looking at 55 hours of HA, 9 hours of O3, and 3.1 hours of RGB. Image was taken on a Celestron Edge HD 14-inch from Spain. Fregenal de la Sierra. My name is Diego Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Sorry. Thank you, team. This image scores 89. We got to sort it out? What do you reckon, boss? We should sort it out because you've got some support there. Tanya.
Thank you.
I am electing to challenge, so you don't get a right of reply.
Oh, okay. So this, a planetary nebula, so this is what our sun will eventually happen when it gets to its dying age, and you've got all the gas that it's sort of puffed out. And I think this is a beautiful shot in capturing the symmetry, the circular image of it, and then the colorations that they've used. I also like the effect that, to me, you could almost see that it looks like an eyeball in some ways. So I just found this a stunning image.
Alrighty, would anyone else like to comment? Because you're all scoring fairly similarly there, Mike.
It's worth noting that, and if people who don't know, this object's incredibly faint. So to have brought it out so well is highly commendable. It really is a marvellous piece of work. Scoring these images is incredibly difficult, and it's really, really hard to split the hairs. The symmetry works for it. It also keeps it simple. It's a great photograph.
Alrighty, team. Let's rescore this one. I challenged that, so there's no right of reply in this instance. Currently, the score is 89. You may all score it as you wish. Image remains on 89. but we've got to get a chance to talk about it. Next image, please. Alrighty, team, we are looking at a season of Saturn, an annual sequence of Saturn images from June 2018 to June 2023. Sorry, Kay, can you scroll down for me? Showing Saturn's rings tilt towards edge on. And back up, sorry. Saturn's rings have been narrowing towards edge on during Saturn's northern autumn of its 29-year year. And this is a look at the southern spring season between this period. The cold bluish southern hemisphere is becoming more and more prominent as it emerges from a decade-long polar and ring-shade winter. As we approach Saturn's equinox, moons including Tethys in the final frame can cast shadows onto the planet. And we are looking at astronomic and chroma filters, ZWO ASI 290 camera, QHY 511-200 camera, and a Celestron C14 telescope. Does that give you all the information you need to assess this one? This image scores 88. Who's our planetary specialist here? Could you comment, please?
What I really have to say is, I remember an image from the 90s of the Hubble Space Telescope making a similar sequence like this, and I just think it is applaudable that now, with all the power of Hubble, they created something, and here our photographer's been able to do it. I'm presuming from ground base, so yes, really fantastic image.
Pretty sure that's Tethys way down there. Very cool. Thank you, team. Next image, please. Alrighty then. We are looking at Centaurus A, a fascinating disturbed galaxy in the constellation of Centaurus, 12 million light years away and some 60,000 light years across. There's a lot going on there, and it's believed to be the result of a collision and merger of two galaxies. Supermassive black hole, 55 solar masses at the centre, which is spewing out two relativistic jets. As these collide with hydrogen clouds, they energise them, resulting in the HA glow, which is very apparent on the north side and highlighted by the use of the HA filter. The image is north up. In processing the image, the continuum mapping process was used to subtract the red light signal from the HA. After doing that, it was clear there is a large signal from knots of gas in and around the dust lane, but more broadly through the centre of the galaxy. Since the signal is clearly there, during processing, a subtle addition was allowed to permeate the core. This galaxy has distinct shells of stars, which are evident. Celestron Edge C11, SBIG 16803 camera, 50mm astronomic filters, LRGB and HA. And I'm just looking for a total amount of data there. LRGB 18.2 hours, HA 10 hours. This one has averaged 88. So, you've got two in the 90s, and the rest of you are very close. So, I think I'm going to challenge it again, if that's all right with you guys. I'm going to ask Tanya to speak first. I'm going to ask Mike to speak, and then we're just going to rescore it. All right?
Okay. So yeah, the beautiful Centaurus galaxy, what you're actually seeing is an elliptical galaxy and a spiral galaxy that have merged together. So that's why you get the sort of halo of elliptical stars and then the band across is from the spiral galaxy. And depending on how you process it, that the elliptical region can actually get blown out. So I really applaud the way that they have more focused on the dust lane. And in fact, it's also setting it against those background stars is what makes it, because this image, this galaxy is very photogenic, but what makes this one stand out for me is actually the background stars that they've included.
Mike.
Okay, that wonderful image of Centaurus A. Centaurus A is quite dear to my heart. I've imaged it many times over the years, including extremely deeply at times, and collaborated with other astronomers who've photographed it to go very deep. So what I'm noticing here is a dark ring around the main halo of the galaxy. So for me, that's just a slight detraction. I think there could be a lot more of the galactic cirrus dust visible in the background, given the depth of the photograph. So this may sound critical, but it's not. It's just the reason it didn't quite, for me, make it into the 90s. So the depth, in order to reveal that relativistic jet effect on the interstellar medium, is what you see in the red there. That depth suggests there should be more depth around the outside of that main halo. The halo is even bigger than what's shown in this photograph. So they're minor things, but they're just enough for me not to put it into the finalist category.
Alrighty, team. Now, as I challenge that one, I'm going to ask you all to rescore that one and score it as you see fit. And I'm just going to mention that I'm with Tanya, that I think the star colours in this one are beautiful. They are really, really, really nice star colours. You guys probably all know this already, but you know, stars are born hot, young and blue, and then they get kind of big and orange as their life cycle continues. So what we're seeing is all of that tapestry of time. All right, we now have remained at 88, but we had a good chance to talk about a beautiful image. Well done to the photographer. Next image, please. Alrighty, the Gabriela Mistral Nebula. This is a two-panel mosaic in an effort to showcase the intricacies of the Karina Nebula, paired with NGC 3324, which is the Gabriela Mistral Nebula at the far left. Brightest nebula in the sky in the southern hemisphere. Its core bristles with mesmerising phenomena from towering dust pillars to compact globules and objects that have achieved fame through the Hubble telescope's lens. If you look in there, you'll see the defiant finger, the mystic mountain, and Gabriela Mistral herself, which supposedly mirrors the silhouette of the Chilean poet. This image is taken with an ASCAR 107 refractor. We have a finalist at 91. It ain't over yet. Tanya, I think given what we have here and the fact that you're here, could I ask you to challenge this one? Well, speak to this one and I'll challenge it.
What drew me to this image, I normally prefer more realistic colours of the night sky, and I think if you're going to go into the narrowband filters, as they have using the H alpha and the O3, then it needs to be for a purpose. And I think the photographer has used it to a fantastic purpose in that it shows you the different, so you really get notice the differences in how the gas is moving through, and also the framing of it with that line going through the centre and the red. It really is a war between the red and the blue, the cool and the hot, and so that's why I think this is a fantastic image. Is that real use of not using the natural image but taking it to a different viewpoint.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. Mike, you're also up there at the higher levels. I'll get your comments on this one too, please.
Yeah, I think when you're photographing something as well photographed or imaged as this object, it needs to be a little different. And what this does is, by putting it in that banner fashion, beautifully frames probably the best bits of this very, very famous and very, very often imaged nebula. And the comments already made about the sensibility and the colours, totally agree. So if you're going to use narrowband filters, it should show what the science is actually doing, what the emission lines are, and blended and faithfully recorded as this image does. So it's a very, very good image.
Thanks, folks. As you've all been challenged by me on this one, I'm going to ask you to rescore, enter whatever score you feel is appropriate, and let's sort this one out. We now have an average of 92. Yeah. Alrighty. The Heart of the Universe, Transplant Edition. This is Gum 12, discovered by the Australian astronomer Colin Stanley Gum, an emission nebula in the southern constellations of Vela and Puppis. Taken on a ASCAR 200mm lens at f4, on a ZWO ASI 6200 MC using UV-IR and Antlia dual band filters. We're looking at 8.7 hours of broadband, 13.1 hours of narrowband. This image has scored an average of 91. Boom! But Paul's on 96. So perhaps you should give us the benefit of your insight, sir.
Yeah, I mean, as a non-sort of deep space photographer, a lot of my suggestions are aesthetic and emotive, more than technical. But I just feel, it struck me really, really, really instantly. It almost feels like it could be a menacing form of an alien energy or life coming out at me. It has this sense of dynamism. It has this amorphous sort of shape that feels like it's almost moving and shimmering with the subtlety and the elegance of the refinement and the edging all around it. It has a curious sense of three-dimensionality sort of wrapping all the way around it. It's held quite beautifully by these wonderful features sort of haphazardly placed around it to sort of lead into that edge of darkness in a way. And that colour palette really speaks beautifully of that on an emotional level as well. It's an astonishing image. I'm on 96.
Thank you, sir. Over to Diego, please.
It's a great image of a target that I have never shot myself, and I really consider the rendition. It's splendid. All the hydrogen on the image and the rest of the gases are just superb. I believe the entrant did a great job.
Very good. Alrighty, this image has now scored a 91. Boom. Next image, please. Alrighty. M20, a rare and beautiful combination of emission and reflection nebulae, a star cluster with obscuring dark clouds and a field of glowing hydrogen in the background, sometimes known as the Trifid Nebula. This one's taken from a private observatory in Chile on a planewave CDK-17 using chroma filters in every filter combination you can imagine of LRGB and SHO. A total of 56 hours and 50 minutes exposure. Just waiting on Paul for this one. Image score is 90. Well, is that the average? No. Yes.
That's the score you've got to
It's 89 in that case, because we have two 90s and the majority rule of 3 under 90. You better sort this out, Mike. You're on 95 and you're obviously keen to talk about this one, so please pass the talkie stick.
Sorry, that's it.
Okay, well, I have the benefit of having very closely examined this image during online judging. And I really couldn't say anything, but it's probably the best image of Trifid Nebula from an amateur telescope I've ever seen. And the reason is that very few amateur images have ever been able to capture that gamut of colours in the Trifid Nebula. For those who are in the audience here, we are to see this brown dust almost never, ever gets shown in an image of the Trifid Nebula. The greens, the light blues, the detail in the dust, the detail in the centre, and it all matches. They haven't sharpened the centre compared to the beautiful soft reflection nebulosity. They've brought out an enormous amount of background hydrogen alpha detail here. The stars are beautiful. They look like stars. They've got colours in them. Like really, it's a masterful piece of work in my opinion.
Alrighty, Mike.
Oops, sorry.
I think in this instance, we might just go straight to rescoring this one. Image now scores 92. Woo! Next image, please. All right. Stellar light show, an amazing part of the sky with 4 emission, reflection and dark nebulae amongst a rich background of stars in Scorpius and Ophiuchi. Did I get that right this time? The most dominant star is Antares, the orange star to the right, which is shrouded in stellar dust. Data was taken from various dark sky locations over the last 12 months using a Zeiss 135F2, modified Canon R5, Hutek IDAS filter, approximately 60 panels. This mosaic is from an original image size over 200 megapixels in resolution. Oh, sorry, you've already scored it. It took me that long to read it. Okay. This image has scored 89. All right. And as your scoring is also very close, I think we might leave this one at 89 if that's all right with you guys. That said, I would like a comment from Diego. You're at 89.
Oh, yeah. It's a great image by the entrant, taken with lenses and different cameras. I appreciate the work that it took to develop the image, and the dust lanes on the dark nebulas are great. I would have popped out a little bit, just a slight much of the rest of the colors, but it's a great rendition of that area.
Thank you, Diego. Next image, please. Taken from private observatory in Chile on a planewave CDK-17, using every filter possible with chroma SHO and RGB, and a total exposure time of 32 hours and 58 minutes, working with red, green, blue, ionized sulfur, hydrogen alpha, ionized oxygen filters in this instance. Alrighty. So, what are we thinking about this one, team? Get your scores in. This image scores an average of 89, and we do have a passionate challenge there from Paul at 95. So take it away, sir.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely magnificent level of emotion and flow and movement and elegance and subtlety, and yet there's these lovely refined details and elements and positions of crispness that you can base yourself from to then dance around this lovely misty flowing centre. And even the centrepiece right in the middle, if you're looking close, it has its own wonderful dimensionality and form that almost positions itself really, really wonderfully of its own presence. So you can move all around the frame. The colour complement is magnificent, detail is superb, and it's amazing. 95.
Tanya Hill, please.
It's a magnificent image. It may well be that we've just seen so many beautiful images of this region. I think is probably the only thing. Mike, do you have?
Yes, I'd agree with that. This is a great looking image. It's just originality, I guess, is suffering just slightly for that reason. The composition perhaps could have been chopped a bit off on the right-hand side just to give it slightly more balance. Again, nitpicking here, but that's what we have to do at this level. These images are the best in the country. They're unbelievable. They're fantastic. So I have to be nitpicking, and it's then had gut feeling. And you're right. If you've seen 10,000 of these images, it has to stand out. It's a really good image, though, and the photographer should be fantastically proud of that photograph.
The use of the, I guess, delineation here that we have of the Bok globules, the star-forming regions there, is absolutely exquisite because they're often over-sharpened, and in this case, the photographer's done an exquisite job, in my opinion. I'm going to ask you to rescore the image. Paul, if you could re-enter your 95, and the rest of you may score as you see fit, please. Well, Well, this case, it is highest one wins. This one is scoring 91.
Well done.
NGC 6723 and NGC 6729. Taken with a ASCAR 107 PHQ refractor telescope, capturing the stellar theatrics of this region, we see the cosmic drama unfolding in the realms of Corona Australis and the southern constellations. The Southern Crown creates a magnificent dark molecular cloud, an enigmatic splotch of a canvas of twinkling stars. There's also the Reflection Nebula, which you'll see there as well. There's a lot going on there, folks. Team. This image scores 89. And as you're also very close with your scoring, we'll remain at 89 with a comment from Diego, please. Because you're on 89.
I appreciate pretty much the stark color of the image and the fact that the person didn't over-process the dark nebulas on this photo. The field of view and the framing, I think it's spot on, balancing the dark nebula and the globular cluster. So congratulations to the photographer.
An interesting mix with a globular cluster thrown in as well. Could we have the next image, please? Alrighty. Roses and a horse cantering beside the river at sunset. What? Okay, I'm just reading what's here. It's all good. An amazing part of the sky filled with 4 emission, reflection and dark nebulae amongst a background of stars in Scorpius and Ophiuchi. The most dominant star is Antares. Taken on a Zeiss 135F2, multi-panel mosaic from an original image size close to 60 megapixels. Taken from various locations around North Queensland, using a modified Canon R5 and a high-tech IDAS filter. Image was taken over 12 months. Average is 90. Boom. And apologies to the entrant, but this is the Blue Horse Nebula, I believe we call this one, because it looks actually like a horse's head in this instance. Sorry, guys. All right, as we have 3 of you in 90, I'm going to take the comments from the highest one and challenge this. So Paul, go for it, please.
Yeah, it's hard not to repeat yourself in some ways with these images, but really quite magnificent. The space, the flow, the sense of sort of movement, the wonderful separation of the hues and tones around the whole image, the little wispy sense of leading lines leading in and out of the frame, and positions all the way bounced around that you can spend time with individually as well, that collectively make up a just wonderfully cohesive tapestry. It's just gorgeous.
All right.
And I will quickly confess that I put a score in and then re-looked at the framing of this and how they've really kind of sat it within the thing. And that's really well done. So I was actually upset that I didn't realise I'd pressed
And just before
submit.
you do score, I just want to bring you back to the title of the roses and the horse. So let's go. Let's rescore this one. And I'm letting you all rescore because I challenged that one. You can rescore it as anything you like now, mate. Right, image now scores 91. Next image, please. Please use the full scoring range. Be deliberate with your choices. Otherwise, we're going to have a whole lot of 91s. So. Alrighty, Sorry. We are once again looking at the fabulous M20 Trifid Nebula. Our processing was concentrated on bringing out the detail in the core while attempting to retain a natural look. We have taken this on a GSO RC8 using ZWO ASI 1600mm camera and just with broadband filters in this case. This image is averaging 87. That's a solid score into the semi-finalist range. Thank you. Let's get a comment from Mike on this one, please. You are the Trifid man.
I remember this image during online judging. Fantastic. Trifid Nebula. The stars look like stars. They're bright, they're shiny. The dust looks like dust. The photographer has really kind of nailed all the basics, the star colours. It's a little bit centralised to be an absolute top performer, the image from a composition perspective. Like when you're taking a photograph of an astro object, that may seem quite obvious that you should do that, but in this sort of competition, that can be the difference. Otherwise, the overall image is really quite good. I really can't say anything particularly bad about it. There's just a few things missing that could have been achieved with a bit longer exposure and maybe a slightly different composition.
Okay. All right, tail separation of Comet C/2022 E3 ZTF. January 26, 2023. 100 by 30 seconds of luminance and 40 by 60 seconds of R, G and B each. Taken on a Skywatcher Esprit refractor 100 from Austria. Print score is 89. We haven't talked about comets. No. Would you like to talk about the comet? So I'm going to actually ask you to challenge this because you're a little higher than everybody else and you've got some serious support there.
Oh, okay, great. So this was the green comet of, it was 2023, wasn't it? It was only this year. COVID has messed with my sense of time. And so beautiful, I feel, imaging of the actual green ionising region there. But really what captured me is, so what happened with this comet, as they referred to, was that it started to break away. And so getting that extra in the top there, that extra bit of the tail, was what made me rank it so highly, that they captured that moment of the comet actually breaking up. Well, not breaking up, but changes in space. Yeah, yes, yeah, and part of this is because of the way that the solar wind has actually affected the comet.
So I'm going to ask you to rescore now, bearing in mind Tanya's remarks. That's 89. Apologies to the entrant if you're listening in Austria. Let's move on to the next image. Okay. Witchhead Nebula. The Witchhead Nebula is a faint reflection nebula illuminated by the nearby blue supergiant star Rigel. Rigel is the brightest star in the constellation of Orion and the 7th brightest in the sky. This is taken with an ASCAR 200mm f4 lens on an ASI 6200 MC camera using UV-IR filters and an Amplia dual-band narrowband filter. The RGB is 9.6 hours, 9 hours of HA for the Witchhead Nebula. Boom. 91. As the scoring is so close, we'll accept that score. Yes. With a comment, please, from, looks like Tiago wants to, no? I was going to say Mike, but did you want to talk? No? Mike. Could you comment on this one, please?
Wow, what an image, huh? Pretty incredible. I mean, the layers are awesome. The depth of the image is awesome. The Witchhead Nebula is one of the most fantastic dusty nebulas in the sky, and the way it can sort of be set off with Rigel, brightest star in Orion there, you clearly get the sense that they're separated. The photographers brought out the hydrogen alpha really nicely in the background. I really can't fault the image other than sort of say maybe the contrast is just a bit stark between the red and the gas, or the dust, I should say. It just has a very, very slight, not quite matching feel to me, but it's very minor. And as I said before, at this level, trying to separate these images so hard, it's a fantastic shot.
It's a really cool thing. It's just sometimes a little distracting having a bright thing right next to the edge of the frame, isn't it? So, alrighty. The Cocoon Nebula, IC 5146, is aptly named. It's a magnificent nursery of stars located 3,500 light years away in the constellation of Cygnus. Now, it doesn't have the generous apparent dimensions of other well-known star-forming places such as Orion or the Lagoon Nebula, but it nevertheless is a seat of sustained activity of star creation, the great majority of which are hidden behind dark dust bands. The Cocoon Nebula has a bluish zone around the edge of the ionized zone, which does not result from the absorption of stellar radiation by gas and its re-emission at a lower energy, but from a simpler reflection of the light. With this image, the entrant has tried to reveal these different structures to do justice to this amazing nebula. Image was taken from France on a Takahashi TSA 102 using LRGB and HA filters. Total acquisition time was 37 hours. Almost unanimously in this instance. Diego, you gave it a good score. Could I get your comments on the Cocoon, please?
It shows a field of view that is really busy on stars. Star color, I believe, is remarkable, and the gas is not overdone. Would have loved to see the Cocoon Nebula a bit, not in the center, but closer to it, to frame it differently. But I think it's a great job by the photographer.
Next image, please. Alrighty, this image is titled The Rolling Waves of Vela and is shot at the edge of the constellation Vela. The main bright star has no common name and is 735 light years distant. The main features of nebulosity in this image are hydrogen alpha and sulfur emissions, ionized sulfur, on the edge of the Vela supernova remnant. The image was taken with a sidereal trading 10-inch f4 telescope using a ZWO 2600 camera with astronomic RGB, HA and ionized sulfur filters. 90. We have 4 of you at 90. We should probably do something about that. Are we happy with all of that, you guys? Does anyone want to challenge it? You good? We're all content? Okay. Can I get a comment then from Mike in that case?
Black is yeah. Need a pink one. Well, I sound like a broken record, but what a fabulous image. Simplicity, when you look at it closely, which I've done, zoomed in on close because I was an online judge. It's so beautiful and smooth, and it's the colours of the stars. The gas looks like it's separate from the background. There's detail in the gases. It's an unusual and original framing of a very famous nebula that normally gets photographed quite differently or framed quite differently. It just made me feel really good when I looked at it. It's hard to sort of say how it would be better. It just felt like just very slightly it was compartmentalised a little bit. Like I wanted to see outside the frame a little bit more, but I know I can't, but that's how it made me feel. But otherwise, excellent. Really, really good.
Well done. Let's move on to the next image then, team. Alrighty. Mistral Mayhem, a new take on the popular region of space, showcasing the many obscure reflection nebulae often excluded in images of the Gabriela Mistral Nebula and the Gem Cluster. These are the 2 main objects of the field found at the top of the Great Karina Nebula. The Great Gabriela Mistral Nebula contains the cosmic cliffs, one of the first images taken by the James Webb Telescope. And the entrant has used PixInsight and Photoshop to try and separate the narrowband and broadband components to show the features of the image. It's taken from Mount John Observatory using an Esprit 120 refractor. It's 4 hours of integration time using astronomic LRGB and Optolong SHO filters. All filters were used in this image. Scores, please, team. Alrighty then. This image scores 88. Boom. I think I'm going to comment on this one because I haven't seen an image of this very popular target showing those reflection nebulae quite so intensely as that before. And hats off to the entrant for showing us these blue regions here so well with these amazing dust lanes, giving us that very clear definition. I think they've done a terrific job of creating something quite unique in a very popular, well-imaged target. So hats off to them. Good job. Next image, please. GUM 15, also known as RCW 32 in the constellation Vela, about 3,000 light years away. A beautifully detailed nebula shaped by the interstellar wind throughout. The presence of the star cluster also adds to the magic. Mostly an emission nebula, there is some reflection nebulosity present, which is seen as gentle streaks of blue magenta streaking across the nebula. This is represented in HA-RGB over many nights from January to February using a Skywatcher 250 Quattro telescope. There's 1,200 seconds exposures for the HA and 300 second exposures for the RGB. Now we've got it. This image has scored 86. You're all very close with that one. Tanya, could I ask for a comment from you, please?
So with the GUM Nebula, so looking in around the region of Vela and Puppis is, so whether it's part of a star supernova remnant, or if this region is probably more a H2 region, I think is the newest, yeah.
We're looking at a 3-panel mosaic of the constellation of Orion, the Hunter. Possibly one of the most photographed out there, and for a good reason. It has a smorgasbord of targets which are set out to capture in as much detail as possible with this 3-panel mosaic. So you've got the Horsehead, you've got M42, you've got this more obscure nebulae such as the Boogeyman and the Bat Nebulae here. Image was taken with a Samyang 135 lens from an Astro-modded Z6 in this instance. 1.45 hours per panel. Thanks, Kate. Okay, this image scored 89 almost unanimously from our discerning panel. So in this case, I think I might get Diego to comment on this one, if that's all right. We won't challenge this, but we'll get your comments.
The amount of information that I can see on the image, I think it's stunning. A well-photographed, lots of well-photographed targets are shown there with stunning detail, a lot of nebulosity coming from the background, and then I can separate different places. All of them I like on the image. I think the photographer did a great job on this mosaic.
Do you think also that, is it too much for the eye to see in some ways, because the photographer's done such an excellent job of capturing everything there, that it's a little bit of a, is it a plethora, is it too much for us to assess as a photograph?
It brings me to a fantasy of what if they were all that bright in the sky.
Yes.
And that's what I would see. Sadly, it's not the case, but that's the magic of photography.
If our eyes were more sensitive, we'd all look up and see that, right? Yeah. Next image, please. And the information. This is a rarely imaged dark nebulae located in the south celestial pole in the constellation of Chameleon. Vast molecular cloud complex is dense interstellar dust cloud that blocks the light from the stars behind. This region of the Chameleon molecular cloud is devoid of new star formation. It's taken with a sharp star HNT 150 at f2.8 with LRGB filters in this case. We have a total of 9.5 hours of exposure. This image is scored 88. Just quickly on that, Mike, I'm going to get you to quickly challenge this because you can, and you should, because you're 5 points away.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
So go for it.
Okay, what struck me about this image was the real palpable sense that the space is way in the background behind the dust. We see a lot of photographs, I've seen a lot of photographs of dust. It looks great, looks like dust and nice, but this has just really captured that fact, that feeling that this dust is in the foreground, and that space way behind there, looking into the distant parts of the Milky Way galaxy into infinity. And it's beautifully centered. It's like something's gouged out a big hole in the dust. The dust looks like dust, looks very natural. The processing's really well done. The star colors are excellent. It's just overall a really well done image. But it really captivated me that I sensed I was about to fly through that hole and I'd come out into nothing, out into like from Star Trek or something, and all of a sudden all the gas would be behind me. So that's why I really think it's worth a finalist position.
History's way.
So I'm coming at it perhaps more from a pictorial angle, and I get that sense. I love the explanation, but I wonder whether the framing and the way it's been presented to me, it's confusing me a little bit because there are other areas of the image that aren't perhaps telling that story quite as strongly. And so I'm looking for a little bit more clarity in the way the framing has been made to give me that full sense.
Okay. Alrighty then. Quick comment, by all means.
Yeah, what really stands out with this image for me, there's this almost visceral, organic, materialistic quality to this that feels like a fibre you can literally touch. And how they've resolved that is incredible. But I'm a little bit with Peter in that compositionally it feels a bit sort of unresolved and messy and kind of washes out of frame on the left-hand side, even though the features are so intriguing.
Bring it home, Mike, or have you said it all?
Oh, no, I think that's all fair assessment.
Thank you. Let's rescore this one, folks. Mike, you're... Alrighty. Image has now scored 89. The information says that one was taken from LMDSS, which is the ASV's dark side here in Victoria. Cool, huh? Next image. Alrighty, the famous Seven Sisters, M45 from memory? Yep, the Pleiades. We have 19 hours of RGB here, taken on a ASCAR ACL 200 lens over a period of time stretching between October and December of 2022. Now we have it. This image is scored 89. Oh my gosh. You're on 95. You can and you should.
I've just been following Mike's advice here.
And you've got support.
He sees the nice picture and he gives it 95, so I was just doing what you do.
Tanya's with you at 90, and you've got some 88s in there as well. So See what you can do.
So I guess I'm reacting again, not as a scientist, but as an uninformed observer, although I have played around with this particular image area myself. And I think what I love is that, well, the other images I've seen have often been that really strong, rich blue, which we all love, whereas here it's a very muted, almost delicate colour palette. The gases or whatever they are that surround, you've got that little shape up in the top right, which is sort of, playing peekaboo, etc. I feel that there is a myriad of stories that we can bring so that not only you scientific types, but us uneducated mortals, we can sort of get into the heavens a little bit ourselves as well. So from a purely pictorial point of view, I commend it to you. This I find is, it's different, it's strong, and it also leaves plenty of room for the imagination.
Well, thank you, Peter. Now, the lowest scorer is Paul in this case. You're only on 86. Which is, I'm talking in tongue of jest there.
It's a bit more consistent with Peter and I, but I was sort of struggling a little bit with the sense of resolve in the image. Like there's sort of this soft wispy material everywhere, but it doesn't sort of resolve into a particular shape or structure or lead me in a certain direction or refine itself to me as a final piece. But I did see the peekaboo, and I personally do think the hue on those blues is quite magnificent.
Over to you, Tanya. You're at 90. Tanya?
Yes, again, it's more, we've seen the classic Pleiades picture where you zoom up on just the stars, and I think this is really interesting in taking that wide field. And I also like the fact that they kept the region where you can kind of see through the dust and see the stars below in the bottom right there. So it's a nice balance for me. Yes.
Let's rescore the image.
I get my right of reply.
Well,
I just want you all to sit back and imagine that image, the size of this wall, as a nice big print. Wouldn't it look absolutely amazing? Thank you. Enough said.
Most scored 91. Next image, please. Thank you, guys. You're doing a great job. I'll check right after this. Okay, the Large Magellanic Cloud. We are looking at 1,950 frames of 300 seconds each. Do the math on that, and I think you'll work out about a lot of hours. Long-term project in mosaic form from San Pedro de Atacama in Chile. This is taken with a William Optics. Thank you, William Optics, our sponsor. SpaceCat 51. You could win one of those. Yes. It's 160 hours, combining RGB, HA, and O3. Score is 91. Yeah, okay, off you go. Off you go, Paul.
Well, I don't know how well the audience can get in and really resolve themselves to the incredible diversity and individuality of every single feature in there. It has its own personality, shape, resolve, kind of feeling, colour palette. And you can dance around and spend hours with this image. And it has this wonderful helixical kind of shape sort of flowing through it. You know, we're brought into the entry point with this soft kind of mist, and then we're danced along this beautiful curve through the right, and then we have all this lovely reveal at the back end to just spend all this time just dancing around. And I haven't seen, I guess, a sense of resolve in those shapes. Some of them look like galaxies in themselves, and there's just such a lot of personality within personality within personality to every single point and structure in the image. It's astonishing.
Tanya, you're up. You only gave it 89.
This was a really hard one for me to judge because, I mean, the Large Magellanic Cloud, so a dwarf galaxy to our Milky Way, and it's got the big 30 Doradus, which is just sort of to the lower left. They're of the galaxy. And I can see it's beautiful artwork, but I actually rated it down because it's more artwork than a sort of astrophotography, I feel. So, yes, sorry.
More points then.
All right. Peter, you got something to add?
No, I'm good.
No? Right. Sorry. In that case, I'll hand this one back to Paul.
As far as I'm concerned, we are judging art here as much as astrophotography, Tanya. So feel free to bring that into the equation.
All right, team. Let's rescore this one. Boom, 91. It's a wide field image around Orion's belt. It's taken with a 200mm lens and an ASCAR 200mm lens using an ASI 6200MC camera, dual band, narrowband filters. We're looking at 25.5 hours of RGB and 10.5 hours of HO for this wide field image. The image score is 88. And on this one, we'll take a comment from Diego, please.
Again, well photographed targets on this image. I really appreciate the way the flame nebula and the horse head and all the nebula behind the horse head is represented in here, and all the nebulosity between that and Orion. It's impressive. The field of view, the framing, I think it's great, and the dark nebulosity, it makes the image a really good result.
Well done to the entrant. Guys, thank you. That's the end of the category.